The edge of known space. Commander Ilara Voss stood at the viewport of the Galactic Alliance exploration vessel Horizon, staring into the abyss that marked the edge of all known star charts. The void boundary, they called it. The place where scanners failed, where ships disappeared, where even the bravest explorers turned back. For 3 centuries, no Alliance vessel had ventured beyond this invisible line. Until today. Scanning systems continue to degrade, Commander, reported Lieutenant Tark, his blue-scaled hands moving rapidly over the sensor array. The Varaxian's facial membranes pulsed with anxiety. We're experiencing 70% interference. Navigation computers are struggling to maintain orientation. Ilara nodded, her silver eyes never leaving the darkness ahead. Keep us steady, Lieutenant. The Council wants answers about these energy signatures, and we're going to get them. The Horizon had been dispatched after automated probes detected unusual energy fluctuations beyond the boundary, patterns too regular to be natural, too complex to be dismissed. Some on the Council whispered of ancient weapons, others of spatial anomalies that could revolutionize travel. Ilara didn't care about the politics. She cared about the truth. Distance to estimated source, she asked. Approximately 18 million kilometers beyond the boundary, answered Tark. But Commander, the boundary protocols clearly state. I know what they state, Lieutenant. Ilara cut him off. And I also know that protocols are guidelines, not prison walls. The Alliance needs to understand what's out here. What she didn't say was that the Alliance was growing complacent, stagnant under the weight of its own bureaucracy. 300 years of relative peace had dulled their edge. The Pax Galactica, they called it, a time of prosperity and cooperation among the 17 sentient species. But peace built on ignorance was just a beautiful delusion. Initiating final approach, announced the pilot, a stoic Carillion whose granite-like skin betrayed no emotion. Crossing the boundary in 3, 2, 1. The ship shuddered as they passed through, systems flickering momentarily before stabilizing. The stars seemed different here, sharper, brighter somehow. Ilara felt a chill run down her spine. They were in uncharted space now, beyond the reach of Alliance beacons, beyond the safety of established routes. Commander, I'm detecting movement. Tark's voice rose in pitch. Multiple contacts, closing fast. The tactical display came alive with approaching signatures, small, fast-moving craft surrounding the larger vessel. They weren't broadcasting Alliance identification codes. Raise shields, Ilara ordered. Defensive posture only. Hail them on all frequencies. The response came not in words, but in a barrage of energy fire that slammed into the Horizon's shields, sending cascades of emergency alerts through the bridge systems. Shields at 60%, shouted the tactical officer. They're using some kind of phase disruptors. Our defenses weren't designed for this. Ilara gripped the command rail as another impact rocked the ship. Return fire, defensive pattern delta. Get us some distance. Through the viewport, she could now see their attackers, sleek, predatory craft with jagged silhouettes that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. At the center of their formation loomed a larger vessel, its surface rippling with what looked like living metal. Shriek Raiders, Tark whispered, his voice hollow with fear. The Shriek, a semi-mythical species from the Outer Rim, rumored to feed on energy and technology. Most Alliance citizens dismissed them as spacer tales, but frontier colonies had reported attacks for decades, only to be ignored by Central Command. Another hit, more alarms. Shields failing. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Ilara knew they were outmatched. The Horizon was an exploration vessel, not a warship. All hands to escape pods. Emergency protocols. Now, as her crew scrambled to obey, the largest Shriek vessel loomed closer, extending what looked like metallic tendrils toward the Horizon. Boarding protocols. They weren't just attacking. They were hunting. Commander, Tark shouted above the chaos. New contact, approaching at impossible velocity. The tactical display showed something moving toward them faster than any Alliance vessel could travel, cutting between the horizon and the Shriek Raiders like a knife through water. Ilara caught only a glimpse through the viewport, a sleek, dark hull with pulsing blue energy lines, tracing its contours, powerful and purposeful. What happened next occurred so quickly that Ilara could barely process it. The newcomer fired, not energy weapons like the Alliance used, but physical projectiles accelerated to relativistic speeds. They tore through the Shriek vessels, reducing 3 smaller craft to expanding clouds of debris in seconds. The larger raider attempted to turn, to bring its weapons to bear, but the unknown ship executed a maneuver that should have been impossible, sliding underneath the Shriek vessel and unleashing a barrage that cut through its living metal hull like it was paper. "Commander," Tark's voice was barely a whisper now. "We're being hailed." The voice that came through was unmistakably human. A species that had vanished from Alliance records nearly 2 centuries ago, presumed extinct after their homeworld became uninhabitable following a catastrophic war. "Alliance vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Aegis Fleet vessel Remora. Stand by for emergency extraction. Your ship is compromised." Before Ilara could respond, her world dissolved into blue light as a teleportation field engulfed the bridge. She rematerialized in a sleek command center unlike anything in the Alliance fleet. The technology surrounding her was both familiar and alien, recognizable in purpose, but advanced beyond anything she'd seen. And the crew, all human, a species that should have been extinct. A tall woman with close-cropped black hair and eyes that reflected starlight approached. "Commander Voss, Captain Chen, welcome aboard the Remora. Your crew is safe. We extracted everyone before your ship's core destabilized." Ilara found her voice. "You're human. How is that possible?" "The records say Earth was destroyed? Not quite." Chen's expression was unreadable. "We abandoned it, yes, but humanity didn't end. We simply relocated beyond the void boundary," Ilara realized. "You've been out here all this time." Chen nodded. "The Alliance was never particularly fond of humans. When our world was dying and we asked for help, your precious council voted against intervention. Called us too unpredictable, too dangerous to be fully integrated." Ilara had read the historical accounts, but they differed significantly from Chen's version. According to Alliance history, humans had been offered relocation, but had rejected oversight, leading to their eventual extinction. "So we took matters into our own hands," Chen continued. "We gathered what was left of our fleet, our best minds, our strongest survivors, and we left. Found a region of space where your sensors couldn't follow, built a network of dampening fields that became your void boundary, and made a new start." The tactical officer interrupted. "Captain, Command is requesting an update on the Alliance vessel." Chen nodded. "Tell Admiral Caddo we have 28 survivors and are bringing them to Nexus Prime." The horizon was lost. Ilara's mind raced. "Admiral, Command, Nexus Prime. How extensive was this human civilization?" As if reading her thoughts, Chen gestured to a holographic display in the center of the bridge. It expanded to show a vast network of star systems, dozens of them, all connected by pulsing transit lines. "Welcome to the Aegis Confederation, Commander Voss. 17 habitable worlds, 31 outposts, and a fleet of 300 vessels. We've been busy while the Alliance thought us dead." Ilara stared at the display in disbelief. "Why reveal yourselves now? Why save us?" Chen's expression darkened. "Because what you call Shriek Raiders are just scouts for something much, much worse. We've been fighting them for decades while your Alliance pretends they don't exist. But they're growing bolder, stronger." She paused, eyes locked with Ilara's. "And they're preparing to launch an invasion that will reach far beyond our space, into the heart of your precious Alliance." Ilara felt a chill run through her. The energy signatures. They weren't weapons or anomalies. "No," Chen confirmed. They were the remnants of a battle, one of many we fought to keep the Shriek contained. But we're losing ground, Commander. And if they break through our defenses, the Alliance will have no idea what hit them. The Remora accelerated deeper into human space, leaving the void boundary behind. Ahead lay a truth the Alliance had never suspected, that their map of the galaxy ended not in empty darkness, but at the beginning of human space. And beyond that border, a war was raging that would soon engulf them all. The strength of the forgotten. Nexus Prime hung in space like a jewel set against the backdrop of a luminous nebula, a world that, according to Alliance records, shouldn't exist. As the Remora approached, Ilara could see a planetary ring structure that wasn't natural but constructed, an orbital defensive platform bristling with weapons systems that made Alliance military stations look like toys. Impressive, she murmured, standing beside Captain Chen on the bridge. Necessary, Chen corrected. The front line of a war your Alliance refuses to acknowledge. The ship docked at an orbital station large enough to house a small city. As Ilara and her surviving crew disembarked, they were met by a delegation led by a stern-faced man whose uniform displayed more authority markers than Chen's. Admiral Kato, Chen saluted. The Alliance exploration vessel as reported. This is their commander, Ilara Voss. Admiral Kato studied Ilara with eyes that had seen too much conflict. Commander, welcome to human space. Though I'm not sure welcome is the right word for visitors who arrive pursued by Shriek raiders. We didn't know, Ilara said. The Alliance has no record of any sustained contact with these Shriek. They're considered frontier myths. Kato exchanged a glance with Chen. Myths that nearly destroyed your ship, myths we've been fighting for 60 years. He gestured for them to follow. Come, the Aegis Council is waiting. They traveled through corridors of polished metal and programmable matter that shifted and reconfigured as they passed. The technology Ilara observed was beyond cutting edge. It was revolutionary. Gravity manipulation that allowed vertical and horizontal transit without sensation of movement. Information systems that interface directly with users through subtle neural fields. Your technology, she said quietly to Chen. It's at least a century beyond anything in the Alliance. Chen's smile held no warmth. Necessity is a powerful accelerant for innovation, Commander. When you're fighting for survival with no allies, you either evolve or die. The council chamber was a circular room with a holographic display dominating its center. Around it sat 12 individuals, the Aegis Council, representing different aspects of human governance. Admiral Kato took his place among them, leaving Ilara and Chen standing before them. Commander Voss, a woman with silver hair and calculating eyes addressed her. I am Director Wei, head of the Aegis Council. Your presence here represents the first official contact between our civilizations in 197 years. Ilara stood straighter. I understand this is unexpected. I assure you the Alliance had no knowledge of your survival or establishment here. Of course not, another counselor scoffed. That was rather the point of the void boundary. The question is, what do we do with you now? The holographic display shifted to show the region where the horizon had been attacked. The Shriek scout vessels that engaged your ship were part of a larger formation, Admiral Kato explained. They've been probing our defenses systematically, looking for weaknesses. Our intelligence suggests they're gathering for a major offensive. Director Wei continued, for decades, we've contained them within this region. The display zoomed out, showing a vast area of space where battle markers indicated ongoing conflicts. But our resources are stretching thin, and their numbers continue to grow. Why not contact the Alliance? Ilara asked. Together, our forces cold. We tried. Kato cut her off. 15 years ago, we sent a delegation. They never returned. 5 years after that, we sent coded messages warning of the Shriek. They were dismissed as hoaxes or ignored entirely. Ilara's face flushed with shame. The bureaucratic inertia of the Alliance was legendary. Reports that didn't fit established paradigms were routinely filed away and forgotten. However, Director Wei said, "Your presence offers a new opportunity." A commander with first-hand experience of the Shriek threat might be believed. The implications were clear. They wanted to send her back as their messenger. "The Alliance Council will listen to me," Ilara agreed. "But they'll need proof." "We've prepared a data package," said a counselor who had been introduced as the head of intelligence. "Sensor readings, battle footage, intercepted Shriek communications. Everything your analysts would need to verify our claims." "But there's something else you should see first," said Admiral Kato, nodding to Chen. The hologram shifted again, displaying a massive structure taking shape in orbit around a distant moon. "This is what the Shriek have been building for the past 3 years, Chen explained. "A dimensional gateway large enough to bring through their main battle fleet. Not scouts, not raiders. A full invasion force. According to our calculations, it will be operational in less than 60 days. Ilara studied the structure, noting its size and complexity. "This isn't aimed at your territory, is it?" "No," confirmed Kato. "Based on its orientation and the energy signatures we've detected, they're targeting the Centauri sector, the richest, most populated region of Alliance space." The realization hit Ilara like a physical blow. Billions of lives, hundreds of worlds, all unprepared for what was coming. "We need to warn them now. We need to." "It gets worse," Chen interrupted, manipulating the display to zoom in on the gateway's control mechanisms. "The gateway requires an enormous energy source to function. They're building what we call a stellar harnesser, a device that accelerates a star's fusion process, extracting energy while destabilizing the star itself. The star they've chosen," Kato added grimly, "is Proxima Centauri. When they're done, it will go supernova, taking out half the sector regardless of whether their invasion succeeds." Ilara felt sick. How? How do we stop this?" For the first time, a hint of respect showed in Chen's eyes. "Now you're asking the right question, Commander." Over the next several hours, Ilara was briefed on human military capabilities. The Aegis fleet consisted of 300 primary vessels and over 1,000 support craft, all employing technologies the Alliance had never developed. Inertial negation drives that allowed for maneuvers impossible under normal physics, quantum-linked communications that couldn't be intercepted or jammed, and weapons systems that targeted the unique energy signature of Shriek technology. "We can disrupt the gateway," Kato explained as they reviewed tactical projections, "but not destroy it completely, not without getting closer than their defenses will allow. And even if we succeed, it only buys time. They'll rebuild. Unless," Chen interjected, "we have help." She looked pointedly at Ilara. "Your Alliance ships could approach from vectors the Shriek aren't expecting, create a diversion while our specialized units target the gateway's control nodes." Ilara nodded slowly. "A joint operation." "Exactly," said Kato. "But we need your council's approval, and we need it fast." 3 days later, Ilara found herself aboard a human diplomatic vessel headed back toward Alliance space. The data package secure, her testimony prepared. But as they approached the void boundary, an emergency transmission reached them, the Horizon's automated distress beacon still broadcasting from the wreckage. It had been found by an Alliance patrol. Commander Voss, the stern face of Admiral Terrell, her superior, filled the communication screen. "Your ship has been destroyed. Your mission compromised. Identify your current status and location immediately." Ilara took a deep breath. This was earlier than planned, but it changed nothing. "Admiral, I'm aboard a vessel of the Aegis Confederation, a human civilization beyond the void boundary. We have critical intelligence regarding an imminent threat to Alliance space." The Admiral's expression shifted from concern to disbelief. "Humans, beyond the boundary. Commander, if you are under duress." "I'm not," Ilara interrupted. "And there's no time for skepticism. In less than 60 days, a hostile force known as the Shriek will launch an invasion through a dimensional gateway they're constructing. They planned to destabilize Proxima Centauri in the process. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "Return to Alliance space immediately, Commander. We'll debrief you thoroughly." But when they reached the rendezvous coordinates, it wasn't just a patrol waiting for them. A full Alliance battle group had assembled. 20 ships with weapons charged, not aimed at the void boundary to defend against the coming threat, but at the human vessel carrying Ilara. "They don't believe us," Chen said quietly. "Not yet," Ilara replied. "But they will." Over the next week, Ilara fought the hardest battle of her career, not against the Shriek, but against Alliance bureaucracy, against ingrained prejudice, against the comfortable ignorance that had allowed them to forget humanity and ignore the warnings from their borders. In the end, it wasn't her testimony that convinced them. It was the Shriek themselves. A raiding party broke through the void boundary, attacking an Alliance outpost. The response fleet encountered not myths but real enemies, vicious, technologically advanced, and utterly alien in their thinking. Only the timely arrival of human forces prevented a massacre. Standing on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Genesis alongside Admiral Tyrell, Ilara watched as human and Alliance vessels coordinated their movements against the retreating Shriek. "I owe you an apology, Commander," Tyrell said quietly. "And it seems we owe humanity one as well." Ilara shook her head. "What we owe each other is a future, Admiral. And that starts with stopping the Shriek Gateway." The combined fleet assembled 2 weeks later, 30 Alliance capital ships joining the human Aegis fleet in the largest military operation either civilization had ever undertaken. As they approached the Shriek construction site, Admiral Cato's voice echoed through the communication channels. "For 2 centuries, our civilizations have existed apart, one in ignorance, one in isolation. Today, we fight together not just for our separate peoples, but for all sentient life in this galaxy." The battle that followed would be recorded in the histories of both civilizations as the turning point, the moment when the galactic map was redrawn, when humanity emerged from the darkness beyond the void boundary, and when the Alliance remembered that the greatest strength comes not from comfortable peace, but from facing the unknown together. As the Shriek Gateway collapsed under combined fire, as the stellar harnesser was disabled by precision strikes from human infiltration teams, Ilara stood on the bridge of the human flagship beside Captain Chen, watching as a new chapter in galactic history began to unfold. "What happens now?" Chen asked as the last Shriek vessels retreated. Ilara looked out at the stars, not divided by boundaries or barriers, but connected by the light they cast across the void. "Now," she said, "we rebuild the map. Together." The galactic charts would never again end in darkness. Human space would take its rightful place among the stars, and the strength of the forgotten would become the salvation of all.